It was clear from the first moment that this was a ceremony to mark the passing of no ordinary Prime Minister. Beginning with one of the most potent images of the day, the coffin of Britain's only female leader slowly pulling away from the Palace of Westminster, territory she had so dominated for more than a decade. To applause, the hearse traversed territory which told the story of Margaret Thatcher's political life. Up Whitehall, passing Downing Street, her home for many years. And then taking the body of the Prime Minister who sent troops to war in the Falklands past the Ministry of Defence. This was to be a state funeral in all but name, complete with full military honours.
We receive the body of our sister Margaret with confidence in God, the giver of life.
At the RAF Church of St Clement Danes, the coffin was handed to the armed services, ahead of a procession which would involve more than 800 military personnel. Atop a gun carriage and led by the band of the Royal Marines, it made its way towards St Paul's Cathedral, where a vast congregation was assembling, the music jostling with the sound of not just applause, but booing en route. The intense security present served as a reminder that Baroness Thatcher is still a divisive figure. In an echo of her famous refrain, "The ladies not for turning," protesters turned their backs as her coffin passed. And yet, as it neared the steps of the cathedral, her admirers' voices soared. Cheers and tributes greeted the procession. The pallbearers, drawn from military units with links to the Falklands, were flanked by 16 Chelsea pensioners, their red coats adding to the ceremonial richness of an occasion which thousands had turned out to see. This was the funeral of an extraordinary political figure, yes, but also that simply of a mother, a grandmother. And inside the great west doors of St Paul's, Lady Thatcher's 2 grandchildren were waiting to lead the coffin, carrying cushions bearing her insignia. Her children, Mark and Carol, sitting alongside the Queen and political figures from across the globe. Just as she dictated which hymns were to be sung, which lessons read, so too the Baroness had ordered who should read them. And she kept a promise to 19-year-old Amanda, who had missed out on having a role in her grandfather Dennis's funeral.
My brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil.
Her confidence belied her years. No surprise the classmates of this offspring of Margaret Thatcher had voted her the student most likely to change the world. There was a reading from the current Prime Minister in accordance with the wishes of a past one, and an evocative address from the Bishop of London in which he embraced her controversial legacy.
The storm of conflicting opinions centres on the Mrs. Thatcher, who became a symbolic figure, even an ism. Lying here, she is one of us, subject to the common destiny of all human beings.
A tearful chancellor in a congregation largely stoical, respectful of the achievements of the grocer's daughter who made it to the highest political office in the land. Her choice of final hymn espousing perhaps the only thing on which everyone here could agree. She stood up for Britain. No Prime Minister since Winston Churchill had been given a funeral on such a scale. And like Churchill, for so many reasons, Margaret Thatcher will be remembered. Michelle Clifford, Sky News.